So I'm Sebastian, I'm CTO of Le Wagon. As Edward said, we are launching this summer. We're very excited to be in London this summer. You can find me on GitHub or Twitter at @ssaunier. And without further ado, we're going to talk about JavaScript tonight. So let's talk about JavaScript. First, JavaScript is a language that is executed in your browser. So inside Chrome, inside Safari, inside Firefox, etc. And it's a language which has been created in 1995, so it's fairly young language. And basically, this is the only language that you can use inside the browser. So why do you need a programming language in the browser? Basically, you need one because you want your website to be as dynamic as possible. For instance, if I go to Le Wagon's website, this is Le Wagon website. You can see in the nav bar, if I click on cities on the top, I get a nice menu. So it's fairly simple. I mean, it's not like rocket science, okay, but it's powered by JavaScript. If we didn't have any JavaScript, we couldn't do something like that. So JavaScript is a language which is executed inside the browser. So basically, we wrote some code so that this behavior happens. And if you want to watch where you can execute JavaScript code, you can open your developer tools inside Chrome. So it's fairly easy. You can just right-click anywhere on the website you are on. So here I'm on Le Wagon, but you can do that on Facebook or anywhere else. And click on the Inspect menu. And basically, it will just open up a developer menu at the bottom of your page. So it's not a bug, it's not a hack or something else. It's just the developer menu, which you can close with the right icon, top right icon, like usual. Okay? So inside this developer, we are going to spend a lot of time here. Inside of these developer tools, you have the console tab, where you can go and actually execute some JavaScript. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. And here, basically, you have somewhere where you can type some JavaScript, and it will be executed by your browser and will return a result. So a programming language is something which tells the computer to do some work for you. And basic stuff we want computers to do is math. So for instance, we want computers to add numbers. So for instance, if I want to add 2 and 3 together, I can just write 2 plus 3 and hit the Enter key, and hopefully it will give me 5. So you see that it has read my input, understood what I wanted to do, computed the statement, and returned the value. Okay? So here, any programming language which does exist actually has a plus operator, hopefully, so that you can compute numbers. But when you talk about JavaScript, usually you don't really do computation. You want to animate your page. And what I can do, in fact, is trigger a click on the cities without actually clicking on the cities. I can fake a click event with JavaScript. So how can I do that? Here I'm going to just fast forward at the end of the presentation once you have understood the DOM, jQuery, and selectors, and I will just write some JavaScript code. So it's perfectly normal if you don't get it at first. So let me just select my element, get the ID of this element, and write some JavaScript code. Okay. So I will execute this code, like $, navbar wagon menu, .click. And if I execute that, what will happen? Yeah, obviously. And if I execute it again, it will close. So you see, in fact, with JavaScript, you can automate some user behavior. You can fake user inputs, user behavior on your page. And actually, faking events or reacting to events is kind of the same thing. So this is, when you think of JavaScript, think of that. Think of a language you can use to animate your page, to display dynamically new content on the web page, and to close some content. Okay? Any questions so far? So here we executed JavaScript inside the browser. So the browser is a nice place, it's a nice sandbox to play with JavaScript and your website. Actually, you can go to Google and try to write some JavaScript code on the Google page to change it. You can go to Facebook and do the same. For instance, you know when you, on Facebook, when you want to invite a lot of people to an event, at some point you have like a pop-in where you can click on every friend you have. I want to invite everybody, and you click like 200 times on the checkbox. Well, you can just fire up the console, write one line of JavaScript, and it will click on every checkbox for you. You can automate stuff like that, for instance, which is kind of cool. Okay, so here I wrote some JavaScript in the developer console, but actually developers don't really code there. We just try out stuff, but at some point we have to code in real software. And there are two tools I like to use when I write JavaScript. So the very first one is my text editor. So I use Sublime Text. Sublime Text is a great text editor. What's a text editor if you don't know? It's basically Microsoft Word, but for developers. It's a place where you're going to write your code and display it in a nice way. I mean, you don't need fancy features of Word like put in bold or align on right, etc. You need other features like syntax highlighting so that you get the keywords of the language in a different color. So Sublime Text is a program which does that, but there are plenty of text editor out there. Another tool I like is JSBean. JSBean is a website, so you can just Google it. And let me show you how JSBean works. Basically, we're going to spend a lot of time tonight in this tool. So I just go to JSBean, and so I can zoom in. I have 5 tabs on the top: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, console, output. So who has never written a single line of HTML tonight? Okay, so that's fine. We'll do a quick recap in a couple of minutes. So HTML is just the basic language to create a web page. So we have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, console, output. Here tonight, I'm going to focus on JavaScript and console. So I'm going to write some JavaScript on the left of the screen, and I'm going to execute this code, and it will display some information on the right. Okay, so let me just show it to you. So if I want to multiply 4 with 3, I will write this code, and in JSBean, in order to display a result, and also in the code editor, not the code editor, but the console here, I need to log my computation. So I will just write console.log, and this way, if I execute this code on the left, it will show up on the right. So let's run this code by clicking on the Run button, and you can see I get 12, which is my result. Make sense? So basically on the left, we'll write some JavaScript code, and when we're happy with the JavaScript code, we just hit the Run button, and we'll get a result. Okay? So here you can see that every line of JavaScript will need a semicolon. It's to tell JavaScript that the end has ended, and it should execute this statement. So let's start with the basics of the language. In any language, you have what we call data types. Data types are a way for the computer to differentiate between numbers and other type of stuff. So the first data type you need to know about is number. You have numbers in JavaScript. You have integers and also float numbers. And for JavaScript, it's all the same. So you have number like 1, 2, 3, 4, numbers you know, and also numbers with the little dot, like 3.14. Okay, so you have 2 types of numbers in just one data type in JavaScript. So not too much to add about numbers. You can add them, subtract them, multiply them, divide them, etc. So any basic math you know can be done in the language. So nothing fancy here. Then you have the Boolean type. Boolean type is very important. It will help you to have some conditional code. And basically a Boolean type is just two values. You have true and false. Okay? So Boolean. Sometimes we talk about 0 and 1, like true and false. And in the computer, actually, you have bits. And bits are just 0 and 1. And 0 and 1 are the dual representation of true and false. Then you have string. A string is a way to store characters. Actually, string is an array of characters. So I can have the John string, John Lennon, a string with just one character, and I can also have a string with 0 character. We call it the empty string, actually. So every time you need to store a name, a city, a postcode, a zip code, anything which is textual will be stored in strings. And then you have more complex objects, because until now it was fairly easy. You have objects. And in JavaScript, there are two big types of objects. You have the first type with the curly braces, which in other language we call a hash or a dictionary. So you can see that you have a key value system, a key value pair. So for the dictionary, I have keys, which are first name and last name. And I have values, John and Lennon. And we call them dictionary because in a real dictionary, you have the keywords, the keys are the words, the English words, and the values are the definition. Okay, so here it's a bit the same. So objects are just key value pairs. So you just put them together because you can see there is a link, a logic link between those values. And the second type of object which is interesting is an array. So an array is just a list of elements. It's a way to store several information in one place. So a list of elements, here I have a list of strings, but I could also have a list of numbers, a list of booleans, anything, a list of dictionary as well. I can combine those types, okay? And then I have two special types in JavaScript. I have null and undefined. So null basically is the absence of anything. It's like void. And undefined, we'll use that when we talk about variables. It's not really the absence of a value. It's more like it's not yet defined. It's a bit subtle, but I mean, I put that here so that you have an exhaustive view of basic data types in JavaScript. Right now, I just give you all the data types so that you have basic tools with you, and then we'll start to write some code. Okay? So, after data types, you need to understand that in JavaScript language and in a lot of languages like Ruby or Java or a lot of them, there are some variables. So what's a variable? Variable is a really important concept. Actually, in any programming language, you have three concepts to understand. Variable, condition, and loops. And so variable is the first one. So you can view a variable like a box, which is sitting inside the memory of your computer, and which is ready to store some information. And to declare such a box, such a variable, you will use this code. You will use the keyword var, put a space, and then name the variable. Put a name on it. Like you create this box, but you will be using several boxes. So to tell the difference between boxes, you need to put names on it, like you just write them down. Okay, so here I have the variable first name. Right now my box is empty. So I will need to put information in my box, and to do that, I write this kind of code. So after var and the name of the variable, I will put an equal sign, and then the value I want to store inside the box. And as every statement in JavaScript, I need to finish with the semicolon. So the equal sign here is not something to compare stuff. It's not something to compare values like we have in math. It's something which we call the assignment operator. Something which is useful to put information inside a variable. And after this statement, if I log on the console the information inside the variable, it will print out John. Okay, so just let's try this simple code. Let's go back to JSBin, and let's write our first variable, John, first name. So with this line of code, I've created a box in the computer memory, and it's stored inside the box John value. And then I can print this value with this code. So let's run it. You see that on the right, I got John. What if I do that? What will be printed when I click the run button on the right? Yeah, John and Paul. I mean, it will, let's run it. It first prints John, because the first time we log the content of the first name value, what's inside the box is John. And then, what I did on this line, I reassigned the content of the box with a new value. And basically, what happened to the old value? Yeah, it's deleted. It's like overwritten. We lost it. We lost it for good. There's no way to recover it. And if I log again the first name content, I get Paul. OK? So once you've put something in a box, you can change what's in the box in JavaScript. OK? And you will see that it's very useful. All good? Any questions so far? No?
Does it matter if you put a lowercase or
Yeah, good question. So here you can see that I wrote first name with a capital N. So this is, actually I could have written that. I could have written first name like that. In JavaScript, the convention is when you have a compound word, when you have two words in the variable name, you will use what we call the lower camel case. So lower camel case means that every time, so you start with a lower character, and every time you see a new word in the compound word, you start this new word with a capital letter. So for first name, I have first, the first word, all lowercase, and then name with a capital letter. And this is just a convention, actually. This is, I mean, JavaScript developers decided that, yes, let's do things like that. In other programming language, for instance, in Ruby, the convention is different. And the convention is snake case. It's like you have, every time you have a new word, you just put an underscore between them. And you don't have any capital letter. Make sense? So it's just a convention.
So in other words, it's not case sensitive at all?
It is case sensitive because, look, if I write that, I get an error. It says first name is not defined. So first name without the capital N is a different variable. So it is definitely case sensitive. OK. So let's write some algorithm. First algorithm of tonight. We try to concatenate two strings. So what does it mean? Yeah, so we will have one string stored in one variable, first name, for instance, another string stored in a second variable, and we want to join them to get a new string. So let's do that. I have a second variable, last name, which I can print if I want. Now you've understood how variables work. And to concatenate two strings, to make a new string out of two strings, you use the plus operator. So basically, you just write first name plus last name. And what do I do with the result of this statement, of this computation? I can print it, I can console.log it, or I can store it in a variable, a third one, to be displayed later. So let's do that. I create a new variable out of this result, and then I will be able to display it. Okay? So let's try to run this program. So it will print John Lennon and then John Lennon. Okay, so it works. Can you criticize a bit this program right now? Yeah, it's a bug, you see? So how can I fix this bug?
Add the string with space between the quotes.
Yeah, sure. So here, the concatenation is done like directly. There's no space inserted. So I need to insert one manually by concatenating first the first name and a string with just space, and then concatenating the result of that with the last name. And if I run the code again, then I will have a nice string. Make sense? So you can concatenate as many variables or strings as you like. There's no limit to that. So plus here, you saw before we used plus with numbers. So we did 2 plus 3 and we got 5. At that time, plus for JavaScript was an operator to do the mathematical plus, mathematical addition. Here, plus, the same symbol, the same character on the keyboard does a different operation. Okay? Because we have two strings. And what happens if I try to add a string and a number? I'm sorry? So let's try it out. So let's log the result of this computation. So let's say I want to add 2 plus John. Okay, let's do that. And I run it. So I get 2 John. So here JavaScript is clever. First, it translates the number to a string, and then it does the concatenation. Okay? And I think it works. I don't remember the other way around. Yeah. Okay? Yes?
In other languages, there might be error, correct?
So here, for this specific language, for JavaScript, it works. It just concatenates the string. But in other languages, like for instance in Ruby, it doesn't work. It raises an error. Because for Ruby, you have to put plus between 2 elements of the same data type. So each language has specificities, and basically you have to remember those specificities or try it out really simply like that. Okay? So it's not universal. It's how JavaScript behaves.
What would happen if you had plus 2 plus 3?
Let's try it out. And if you put parentheses, okay? So when you put parentheses, you disambiguate your statement, and it's a way to grouping operation together. If you let's do some basic math, because I like doing basic math. So how much is it? How much is it? Yes, so many answers. That's crazy. No, it doesn't depend. I mean, there are specific rules in math to that. So basically, if I put parentheses, as the math teacher told you like 20 years ago, I do something like that. So it's 13. Okay? But so you have like a priority in operators. Like the multiplication is there is a priority above the addition. So in programming language, you have the same ideas. all the operators have a priority order, precedence order. So be careful. When you have a line which you don't really understand, just put parentheses so that you're sure of what you're doing. Okay? Okay. So now let's talk about the second important concept in any programming language, which is condition. We also call that branching. Condition will be something we'll deal with the keywords if and else. So let's take something you all ask yourself every morning. Should I take my umbrella? And basically, when you ask this question, you are just a computer executing a simple algorithm, okay? And so you check the weather. So weather here, it's a variable which has been defined somewhere above in the program. And you check it against a specific value. And if the content of this variable actually matches exactly the second value, like rainy, then you enter the code, so you execute the code inside the curly braces. Otherwise, you don't. Okay? So let's try this simple code in the browser. So I'm just going to open a new one. Okay. Yeah, I cannot open a new one. So let's say the weather is rainy. Yeah. So if the weather is rainy, then log take your umbrella. So if I run this code, it will actually print take your umbrella. Okay? Because here, this condition, this statement was true. But if I change what I put in my variable, say I put sunny. The weather is sunny. If I run the code, it won't print anything because now this condition is false. So what's inside the curly braces after the if does not get executed. And that's why we called it branching. It's like when you're in front of you drive your car and at some point you have to go on the left or on the right. You cannot take both roads. You have to choose. Here it's the same. But right now we just have one road, right? We take it or we don't. Maybe you want to do something in case the condition is not right, is not true. So you will add an else statement. So a else statement will be executed if the if condition was false. Okay? So let's try it out. If I run this program, it will print no umbrella for today because this condition was false. And if I revert the weather value to rainy, and if I execute it again, now this branch is executed. Okay? So when you write an if condition with the else statement, either you go here or you go here. But you cannot go in both ways. You have to choose. And actually, the computer chooses for you by executing the statement and checking if it's true or not. So here, I'm using the triple equal, which in JavaScript is a way to check if two values are the same. Okay? So here they are the same because they are the same string. And if you want to go on a third road, because you have another condition, you can do something like that. You can add an else if statement to your if condition. So basically, you can chain if, else if, else if, else if, else. And there's no limit, again, to what you want to achieve. But be careful, when you do something like that, the order in which you define the if, else if, else if, else if conditions is important. Because as soon as one condition is true in this succession of if, else if, else if, it goes inside the branch and it won't evaluate anything else. Okay? So sometimes when you start with those kind of code, you can get lost with the order of if, else if. Any question on the conditions? I mean, it's already something you intuitively do when you have to take actions or to do some decisions. You evaluate conditions, you evaluate probabilities, opportunities, and then you go in a direction. Okay? So the magic behind this condition code is what we call the Boolean algebra. So basically, when you have a condition, like is the weather sunny, is the weather not sunny, you can mix conditions together. And this way, you can create powerful programs. To mix conditions together, you can use the logical AND. So you will check a first condition and a second condition, and if both conditions are true, then the whole condition will be true. Otherwise, it will be false. That's what's represented by what we call the truth table below the statement. So it's always false unless two conditions are true. You also have the logical OR. An example. So let's say we have two variables. First one is storing if it's raining or not. The second one if it's windy or not. Then I can check if it's both raining and windy, then to print to really stay at home. But if at least one condition is false, like the rain is false or wind is false, then it won't print that. Okay? So I had the logical AND. I also have the logical OR. In the case of OR, so it's written with two pipes. So like these characters. The result of A or B will be true if at least one of the conditions is true. So it will be false only if and only if A and B are false. Otherwise, it's true. It's kind of the opposite of the AND. And so you can write code like this. So if you want to know if you're on a weekend by checking the value of a day variable, well, basically you're on the weekend if the day is either Saturday or Sunday. So you can write code like this. Okay? So here you have if day equals Saturday or day equals Sunday, then it's a weekend. And basically you can mix that up. You can mix OR and AND inside the same conditions to create complex programs. But in the end, it's just evaluating A or B or A and B. And the third operator you need to know in the logic algebra is the logical NOT. And basically, logical NOT is quite simple. It just takes the opposite of the value. So if A is true, then exclamation mark A is false. Okay? It's just the other way around. That way you can write code like that. So let's say you have a variable which stores sunny. If it's true, then you can write something like that. So if not sunny, you can print can't tell the beach. Any question on and, or, if? Exclamation mark? No? You're lost? Is it too slow?
It's almost like C.
It's almost what?
JavaScript borrowed from C.
I mean, every language stole from every other language. So, I mean, at some point you have to choose a way to express stuff, and it's easier for programmers if you just reuse the same way to express the same concepts. Otherwise, you always have to learn new characters. So I prefer that, actually, when I have to switch between language, not to switch completely of syntax. You can also do something like that if you want to check if two values are not the same. So if you want to check they are the same, you just do triple equal. And if you want to check if they are not the same, it's exclamation mark and 2 equals. Okay, and then you combine everything like if, else, else if, exclamation mark, and or, and you get all the algebra, Boolean algebra you need to write complex algorithms. So let's do some exercise with all we've known until now. Let's write a program which will identify names which are starting with a B. So I need some boilerplate code to start with. So I have John. No, I need B names. So Ben, Bob, and John. Okay. So I would like to store in a new variables all the names starting with a B. Like, so it will be B names. At the beginning, B names is empty, and I want to write some code which will put inside the B names all the name with a B. Make sense? So how can I do that with all you've understood until now? So yeah, if, good start. If what? Yeah, sure. What you need to check is for each variable, you need to check if the first character is actually a B or not. So how can I access from a variable the first character? So basically, when you have a number, so let's try it out. Let's have John like that. John is just a list. It's a string, and a string is a list of characters. And actually, I can access a very specific character inside the string with the bracket operator. And inside the bracket, I will put a number, which is basically an index of the character inside the string. And in computer, we don't start counting at 1, like normal human being. We start at 0. So if I write John index 0, I'll get the first letter. If I write John 1, I get the second letter. If I write John 3, I get the last letter. Okay? So I can just use that to check if the first letter is actually a B or not. So let's do that. So if Ben first letter is a B, then what can I do? Remember the goal of the exercise? I want to fill this B names variable with all the names which contain a B. So how can I do that? Yeah, so basically, I want to reassign the content of B names to put a new value inside it. And what do I put as value? So Ben plus what was already inside the B name. Or otherwise, I would just override the value, right? Well, here that's a bit silly because B names, we already know it's empty. But still, for the sake of the exercise, we need that. And then how can I do the same for Bob and John? Sorry? Why do you need an else if here? I mean, here we've just checked if the first letter of Ben is a B, then add Ben to the B names variable. And then we are done for Ben. So now we need to consider the next one, which is Bob, right? So I need to check if the first letter of Bob is a B. And if it is, I will add Bob to the bnames variable list. Right? And I'm done, basically. Because if it's not a b, I do nothing. I don't need an else statement here. And then I need to check John as well. So I just copy-paste the code because I'm lazy. So I change here John and here John. And at the end, I will just log the bnames result. So let's try this code. And it wrote Ben, Bob. So I managed to actually implement the exercise. So first, any question on if someone is not clear why this works, please raise your hand and ask your question. No, you're all clear on that? Can you criticize this? Yes, please? So, can you criticize this code? Is there what?
No space.
Yeah, so yeah, little bug. So let's fix this little bug. It's a minor one, but yes. So how can I fix the fact that I need a space? Yeah, so here I just something like that. So let's try again. Yeah, there's still a bug. I have a space at the beginning. So what could I do? Yeah, it's you know, that's programming. It's like you think you have the right solution, but you have always a little bug like that. So I guess you have to concatenate with a space string after. Like what we can do, instead of adding them by the right, we can add by the left, and it will work, I guess. Oh no, it won't. So how can I solve this bug? Do you have any idea?
Do you concatenate with the space on the right? So that plus space and then bold plus space.
Like that?
Yeah.
So let's try it out. I have the same symmetrical problem because I just push the space on the right. So what can I do?
Tell him not to display.
Just use the tree.
Sorry?
Either you can do tree or get that if it's empty.
Yeah, this works. There are plenty of ways to fix it. But here, what I do, so bname is actually the string. And what I do, I call a function, something we will see later, on the string. And I will tell the string basically to trim it. So remove any space before or after the string. OK? And then I get what I want. That's one way to fixing the problem. So, yeah. So apart from this bug, can you criticize this code? Yeah, it's long. Yeah, so maybe an array would be nice, because here I'm losing John. Why is it so long? What if I had like 10 variables like Ben, Bob, John, Paul, etc.? I would have copy-pasted these 3 lines 10 times. What if I had 100 variables, 100 names? I would have had, like, it's crazy. I mean, every time I need to add a new name, I need to add 3 lines of code.
What if you could tell it one line to go search lines X through Y or A to Z, first character, etc. Rather than going search this line for this, search that line for that, search that line for that, just say search line X through blah blah.
Yeah, so basically you want to, these 3 lines of code, this test, this condition, you want to execute it for every element in a list. So you need something something which we call a loop. You will need to iterate over a list of elements, and for each element, you will execute some code on it. And that way, your code will be independent from the number of elements on the list, because basically it's dynamic and the program will just loop over every element in the list. And that's what we're going to see right now. So let's talk about loops. Loops in JavaScript, there are two types of loops. You have for and while, and first let's concentrate on the for. So what we are going to use is an array. So remember, an array is just a data type. It's just a list of stuff. Here I put 3 strings in an array, and I store this array inside a student variable. As it's an array, I can call a property on an array with the syntax .length, and this way it will tell me how many elements are in the array, which is quite handy. Here, I mean, it's obvious it's 3, but sometimes you have an array with a lot of elements. At some point, you want to know how many elements you have in the array. Say you are, for instance, you're displaying on a website a list of users or a list of products. It's nice to have in the header of the page, here are your 24 products, for instance. And this 24, this number, will come from some code like that. And as it's an array, as in a string, you can access a given element, a particular element, with a bracket notation, and use an index. And again, for arrays, we start at 0. So this is arrays, this is how they work, and they will be really useful when you do loops. So let's say I want to do something to run some code on each element of the array. I will have to write something like that. So here, this code, what it does, it just loops over every element in the student's array, and prints on the console every element. So it's fairly simple code, but let's look at the syntax. So you have the for, and then you have var I equals 0, semicolon. This first statement is executed just once. It's executed at the beginning of the for loop. It's an init sequence, if you want. And then you have the second statement. The second statement of the for loop is I lesser than students.length. This is the break condition of the loop. It's a condition which will return true or false. And basically, if this condition says it's true, it will go inside the loop, execute the code between the curly braces, okay, and then go to the third statement, which is a statement executed after each loop. And here the statement is I plus equal 1. So basically, at the end of each iteration of the loop, we will increment the I counter. And then we go again, second statement, we try the break statement is I lesser than student.length. If it's true, actually, yeah. So while it's true, we go on. So if it's true, I go on, etc., etc. At some point, you can see that I is going to be bigger than students.length. And so the for loop will just stop. So let's just write this code down and console log everything so that you really understand how a for loop works, because it's really important to get this concept right. So let's do a new JS bin. So these are my students. I put them in an array. Sorry for George. So I will say, so again, this is init sequence, then break condition, then post iteration. I don't really know how to call it. And here it's like something to do, basically. So I put that in what we call a comment. So I put just 2 slash in front of the line. This way I can just give you some information on the code. And actually the JavaScript interpreter, the computer running the code, it will just ignore those lines. But it's useful for a human reading my code. Okay? It's not useful for the computer. So what we say, we start at 0. 0 will be the first index. So we create a variable I storing the 0 number. And then we say while the I is below students.length. So what's students.length? Which number does it return? How many? 1. So it's just 3, right? So while I is lesser than 3, I will go inside the loop to run the stuff. And maybe I can just print, let's print I for now, okay? Really simple program. And once it's done, I can just increment I. So add 1 to I. So let's run this program. What will it print? What will the program print? 0, 1, 2. Let's try. Yeah. Everything gets it? We start at 0. I is 0. So we do that. Then we check, is I still under, like lesser than 3? So I is 0, so yes. So we go inside the loop. We print the value of I, which is 0. And then we go here. We increment the I. So I now is 1. So is 1 lesser than 3? Yes. So we go inside the loop and we print 1. And then we increment I, which now is 2. We go again. Is 2 strictly lesser than 3? Yes. So we print 2. And then we increment is now 3. And now we test, is 3 lesser than 3? No. So the first time the condition is false. So we just stop. And we don't run the console.log anymore. And we just, yes, here go to the next line after 4. There is nothing, so the program just stops. OK? Makes sense? So what if I put nothing here? What will happen? Yeah, 0, 0 until infinity. Because here I am stuck in what we call an infinite loop. Like it will run forever. It will drain my battery out, so yeah, I just clear it. So very important to be careful with break conditions and what you change between 2 loop iterations. So once I understand that I is running from 0 to 2, I can just use it to grab the element at index I in the students. And this way, I can print every element in the student array. OK? Make sense? Any question? So actually, just before the exercise, there is another syntax to do the same, which is the while condition. In that case, we just create a I variable before the while condition. We say it's 0. And then we say while I is lesser than a certain value, then do your job. And inside this condition, you have to do the incrementation of I. Otherwise, again, you will get an infinite loop. OK, but while and for are just two ways to actually express the same algorithm in the same program. They are equivalent. Then it's just a matter of taste of the programmer, and sometimes your program will look nicer with a for loop, and sometimes it will look nicer with a while condition. But in the end, it's just the same code, just the same algorithm. So how can we change this exercise? You know, the one where we had to copy-paste a bunch of times the same code using for loops. What can I change here? Yeah, so instead of having 3 variables for every name, I can put them inside one big array, right? So I have Ben, Bob, and John. OK. So let's just get rid of those variables. Great. So now what can I do with this new array variable? So I can run a for loop on it. I can iterate on every element. So for starting at 0 until we run out of names. What do we do here?
Put the if statement inside the
So so the statement was that. So let's take it. But what can I change now?
place
Ben
Ben with I.
with I. So which values does I contain right now at the first iteration? 0. So if I do 0 bracket 0, it will just crash. You cannot I mean 0 is just a number. I don't want 0. What do I want? Yeah, I want the first name inside the names array. So basically, I want names bracket I. And this stuff, which I highlight right now, returns you a string. And as I get a string, I can call again the square operator to get the first letter of the string. Okay? And, well, I can just write the code here, which was adding Ben to B names. And then I can just get rid of this code. So let's try it out. Apparently it works. Okay? So now what is nice is that this code can be used on any numbers of students I put inside that. So look, I can put like Paul. I add a fourth student to the name. If I run the code, it still works. So any other first name with B? Sorry? I didn't get that. It was Bernie, maybe? Yeah. So, yeah. So now you get Bernie, Bob, Ben. Okay?
How can you add names to the array separately? Do you have to edit the array from the top, or you can?
So here I'm playing with the concept, so I have to manually put the names. But when you write a real application program, you will get those information usually from a database. So you will write some database code to actually retrieve names from your user base and then run it through this algorithm. Okay? Quick question. What if my array is empty? Will my program still work? Who thinks it will still work? Yeah. Thanks for the confidence, guy. Yes, it does. I mean, I wrote the code, so yeah. So yeah, it still works. But what if names is null? Yeah. So here you see that it just crashed when it tried to evaluate names.length. Because names, if it's null, names.length does not make any sense. Okay?
It does not exist.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. There's no property length on the null object. That's why you at least need an empty array for this program to work. Okay? Let's put those guys back. So, third big concept, fourth big concept of JavaScript is functions. So basically a function would be like a piece of code that you write at some point and which you can call as many times as you want. It's like if you have some piece of code you want to encapsulate and you want to reuse somewhere, you will put it inside a function and you will call it again and again and again. So let's take an example. For instance, I want to write some code which will basically concatenate two strings and putting a nice space between the two strings. And I don't want to always write variable plus empty string plus variable. I just want to, write it just once, put it inside a function, and then call it whenever I want. So I will write the code like that. It will be function, the name of the function. Between parentheses, I will put parameters, which are like inputs to the function. Then inside the curly braces, I have the body of the function, which is the operation I want to do with the parameters. And then I have the return keyword, which is really important, which basically, for a function, it's like a black box. You put something in, which are the parameters, and you get something out, which is the return statement. So if I want to use this function, I will write this code. I will write the name of the function. I open parentheses again, and for each parameter, I will provide a value. And again, with vocabulary, those values are called arguments. So if I call full name with John and Lennon, it will give me back John space Lennon. So let's try it out in a JS bin. So my function name is full name, and it takes a first parameter, which is first name, a second parameter, which is last name, and what it does, it computes the name, and it returns what it had computed. Okay? So what happens is if I run this code, what does it print on the right if I run this code? So I click on run and I see nothing. In fact, nothing happens. Because here I just defined a function. I just said, OK, here's a nice piece of code that you can remember for future usage. But that's it. It doesn't execute anything. But if I write that, so if I write that, then I will call the function with these values. So it will go back here, say, OK, first name is John, last name is Lennon, enter the body of the function, do the concatenation, and return the value. So then I will get back my value, which I will pass to the console.log function, which will print the results. And what's nice with the function is that I can call it as many times as I want. So if I run this code, I will first get John Lennon and then Ringo Starr. OK, so I just encapsulated. So here, the example is quite trivial because like concatenating two variables with a space between them is quite simple. But usually in functions, you have several lines of code, some complex algorithm, and you can just call it to use it. OK? Make sense? So I had a last exercise, but I want to move on to show you some dumb stuff in the browser. Basically, what you could try to do is to write some code so that instead of having a code which is specific to filtering names for a specific letter, B letter, how you could write your code using a function so that you can filter first name based on any letter you want. So the first name, the first letter filter will be a parameter of the code. You see? So here, you understand that this code, like here, B is a hard-coded value. I can change it. If I want to have a C filter, I have to copy-paste the code and add C instead. So I want to refactor this code so that I can put a parameter and say, this is a B filter, this is a C filter, etc. OK, maybe in 2 minutes we can do it. Can you see how we can do that? yeah, so this whole code should be a function. So basically, we will have a function which will be a first character filter, which will take elements and a character. Sorry for. So it will take elements. Which data type is elements? Elements parameter.
Array.
An array, right? And character. Just a string with one character. So then I can just take this code, put it inside the function. And what do I need to change now? Okay. Yeah, so obviously names, right? So I need to change names. What do I put instead? Elements, right? And I need to change B to character. And instead of printing the stuff inside the function, I just return what I've computed. And it will be the job of the external program to actually print it. I won't do that in the function. So let's return the program. Okay, so let's run this code. What will this code print right now? Nothing. I just define a function, but I'm not calling it anywhere, right? So I want to call this function with this statement, first character filter. So I will pass the names as the first argument, and I will say filter by B. And I will just output the results of this. So let's run that. Okay. Character, yeah. Okay. So running this code now, it shows me names filtered by B. And what is really nice with this code now, with this function, is I can run this one line saying I want names starting with J. And this way, if I run this code, first it will tell me these are the names with a B. Maybe you can put more. Okay. So I have a list of names, plenty of names, and my first call filters out only the B names and the second one, the J names. And all with only one big code. And in this function, you have everything you need to know about a programming language. You have a function definition, you have a for loop, you have a condition, you have a variable declaration. And basically, it's like a summary of the little bricks, the little Lego bricks you can get in a programming language. And that's it. That's basically it. Yeah?
If you have a condition, if condition, do you need to have an else, or can you just have it with it?
You can have an if without an else condition. If you don't have an else condition, if the if condition is false, it just ignores it. And it does nothing. I mean, I could, if you want, I could write that, like do nothing. It works, but it's not useful for the programmer. So you just get rid of that. Okay? Any question on that code? No? So I have 10 minutes left. I will be quick. So I will talk about the DOM. DOM is in the browser what we call a document object model, and it's something which handles HTML for you. And JavaScript will be able to change the DOM, change how the browser displays elements. So this is a tree. Everybody knows a tree. So usually you see trees like that, like going up. But in computer science, we use tree like that, like going down. Right. And also it's fairly complicated, so we prefer to use things like that. So a tree is just a graph where you have nodes, and each node can have children. But every child has only one parent. And at the very, very top, you have the root element. And basically, an HTML page is just a tree. So you know trees in your computer, you know folders. So you have folders and files, and inside folders you have folders, etc. So the folder structure of your computer is already a tree. So you know that. So let's take HTML. This is a basic HTML page. This is a basic skeleton of a HTML page showing hello as a header and a lorem ipsum paragraph. So at the very bottom, at the very top, sorry, you have HTML node. And then you have two children, which are head and body. You always have head and body on an HTML page. Head contains metadata, and body contains the actual content displayed on the page. On the head, you have several children. Sorry. Here I have just one child, and here on the body I have just two children. So this is really, really simple, but a real web application, the DOM is way more complex. So let's go back to the browser, and let's go to the Le Wagon website again. If you go, so here we played in the Elements tab. If you go back to in the console tab, sorry. If you go back to the Elements tab, this is the DOM of the page. So you see you have the HTML root, which has two children, head and body. And if I open the body, I have a nav, and you see it highlights in blue and yellow on my page the element. I have a div, which is hidden, this one. I have another div, which is my banner, okay, this stuff here. I have another div, which is below, we cannot see it, but here, etc. So basically, let's say I want to get rid of my navbar. I can just click on this element, right-click and say delete element, and then now I just lost my navbar on my website. So even after the page has been loaded, I can actually move around stuff, remove stuff, add stuff. So here I did it by hand by right-clicking and deleting a node, but actually JavaScript can do that. It can remove stuff, it can add stuff, it can change stuff. So don't worry, if I reload the page, the navbar is coming again. I reload the page and I didn't break the website. Okay? So it's safe for you to do that on your computer. You won't break Google or Facebook. Just so you know that it only happens locally on your browser. Okay? It's not depending on the server. Yeah, so let's go back. So enters jQuery. Who has heard of jQuery? Okay, for the other one, jQuery is a JavaScript library which has been developed by John Resig and other developers. And basically, it solves this problem. So what's this problem? Maybe you remember, like 10 years ago, we only had Internet Explorer, and it was the beginning of Firefox. And for instance, you had Internet Explorer 6 without any tabs, so you had to open as many windows as possible, so no tabs. Yeah. So we've come a long way, but there was a time where web development was really hard because JavaScript in Internet Explorer, you had to, if you wanted to implement a feature, you had to first implement the version for Internet Explorer, and obviously it was not working in Firefox because they didn't follow the standard. So you have to do like a big if in your code, like if this is Internet Explorer, do that, else do that. So you had to code every feature twice. Once for Internet Explorer and the second one for Firefox, Chrome, etc. Which was way, way, way painful. So jQuery was a library to abstract the differences between the browsers so that you could just write the code once and jQuery would take care of the differences between browsers. And I know we're in 2016, but we still use jQuery because we have users who are on outdated browsers, and also sometimes browsers disagree on a way to implement a feature. So JavaScript is not exactly the same in the two browsers, so we still need jQuery to ease our pain. So how can we use jQuery? Basically, you can use it. So jQuery is just a big JavaScript file. I can show it to you. It's like, this is jQuery. So it's like a bunch of code, bunch of JavaScript code you put on your website so you can use it. And then you will put all your JavaScript code inside this statement. So it's fairly complicated statement, but you just have to understand that you put everything inside it. So what can you actually do with JavaScript? First thing you can do is DOM manipulation. You can actually move stuff around, change stuff dynamically. So let's say on the left, I have this HTML code. So H1, P. See if I write the code on the right, $P selector and .hide, I will hide every paragraph on my page. So it's a way to dynamically hide elements on the page. I also have what we call ID selector. If I have a div with a specific ID, so here it's a cart, if I want to select only this div, I can do it with the pound cart selector. And the third one, which is the most used, is the class selector. So let's say we have a div with attributes which are class red, and another one green. If I want to hide all divs with the red class, I will write a code like that. So DOM manipulation is really important for dynamic content. And here I just showed you how to hide or show stuff. And we can go back to my first example. You remember I started with this one. This is the code I wrote at the very beginning of the presentation. You see that thanks to this jQuery code, I can select, actually, let's just run that. So I can select the cities link in my navbar. And I can play with it, actually. So let's say I want to hide it. I will just run the hide function. And here it's hidden. It's still there, but it's hidden. What if I want to get it back? What can I write? Yeah, you're guessing APIs. You don't even go to the documentation. You already know how to use jQuery. That's the sign of a great API behind. And here again it comes. What if now I want to simulate a click? I want to open the browser. I want to open the cities. I will just call the click function, and it does what I want. So you see that this magic dollar function, it's a way to select all the elements matching a specific selection of your code. So again, I can select all paragraphs. So if I run that, it will return to me every paragraph of the web page. So you see I have this one, this one, this one, this one. I can also select a given element with a specific ID, with the pound character. And I can also select elements with a given class. So, for instance, here your eye can identify components. This is a component, this is a component, this is a component. So when you see something like that on a website, it means that they all share CSS classes all the time. So you can just right-click and inspect the code. Too much zoom. Yeah. So here, I have this div, this div, this div, this div, and they all have the testimonial container class. So if I want to select all the elements with the testimonial, so all the 8 testimonials, I just run this code. And I get the 8 divs. And then I can do whatever I want with them. What if I just want to hide them? I just run that, and then all the testimonials are gone. Okay? I mean, hiding, showing stuff, that's one way to do it. I can do some animation as well with jQuery. I can, I think, slide down stuff. Let's try it. So pay attention because it's fast. Whoa. And I can also toggle up or slide up. Oh. Okay, and you can see that with simple lines of JavaScript, you can build any kind of animation on your website to make it nice to use for the navigation or anything else. Okay? The basis is always the same. First, you need to select the elements you want to animate, you want to show, you want to hide, on which you want to manipulate. And then you apply a function. Okay? The second usage of jQuery is the event handling. And I actually already demonstrated with the click function. So it's a way to react to the user input, like keystrokes, like clicks, etc. So when you have JavaScript games, like for instance, some games you have to press keys, everything is handled like that with events on your browser. So there are events for keystrokes, for clicks, on mobile phone like touch start, touch end, drags, etc. So in the browser, it's very expressive. You can react to anything the user is doing on the website. And react by showing stuff or hiding stuff or anything you want. At the core concept is always the same. You want to listen to an event and actually do something when the event happens. So that's something you do like that. You will listen, you will select an element with a function, and then you will react to the click with another function. So here, if I run this code, if I click on the element with the ID un element, it will alert me, it will display a nice pop-in, you have clicked. And this is the basis of all event programming on the browser. So I won't go into details, I don't have any more time. And the third thing you need to know about jQuery is you can do Ajax. So who knows about Ajax? Yeah, like it's a buzzword you've already heard. So Ajax is here, has been here for 10 years. A bit more like than that, but really since the beginning of Gmail, actually. So you know what, when you are in Gmail or in Facebook, on Twitter, if you wait like a few minutes, it will show you new mails, new Facebook posts, or new tweets, right? You don't have to reload the page to see this new information. That means that somewhere behind the scenes, the browser is fetching new content without you knowing, okay? So this is Ajax. And Ajax is powering like all the modern web when you don't want to refresh your page every time you want new content. So Ajax is just like that. It's behind the scene. You don't really see it, and it will fetch new information. And what I like to showcase is just Google. How they use, when you use Google search. Let's open the inspect tab, and this time we will go to the network tab. So the network tab is showing you all the resources which are downloaded to display your web page. So let's just reload this page. And here you can see all the information downloaded from the Google server to display the page. So you need, obviously, the HTML of the page. This is the first request. You can view the HTML rendered by Google. Quite messy. And then you have an icon. So you can see that basically they stash a lot of icons inside the same one, so that they give you everything at once. And then they will play with CSS to actually just display the elements they want. This is called CSS sprites. There is another request. Don't know what it is used. Like consent, not maybe to give my consent to Google, I don't know. It's weird. Then I have a request to the Google logo color. Okay, this is the main logo. Another request for more icons. This weird stuff. Okay, so you see a lot of requests for just one web page. But that's normal because the web page is just a bunch of text, HTML, and every time there is an image, they will request the image to display it. So, okay, this was at load. At load, we already got a lot of HTTP requests. Now let's try to enter one keystroke. So let's type L. And did you see what happened at the bottom? So here you can see I just typed L, and I got two requests were sent to Google. And those requests actually are AJAX requests. And if I click on the first one and I look at what was returned by Google, this was returned by Google. So let's open it in Sublime Text. And you see that you have LinkedIn, lottery, Liverpool. In fact, what Google returned was information to build the autocomplete elements below the search bar. So as soon as you type a keystroke, it goes directly to Google. They compute an autocomplete list, and they get back to you with just the information needed to change dynamically the page. This way, it doesn't reload everything because it will be too slow. They just actually update this very specific div. So if I type another letter, like E, you see another request was sent. And if I click on it, I can actually open it in Sublime Text. So this time I got Leicester City, Leeds United, etc. I guess it's football club, I don't know. Okay, so each keystroke you type on the Google website triggers an AJAX request. So this way they can dynamically build the interface, and it feels like really a speedy interface, thanks to AJAX again.
So most search functions are doing the same thing.
So which?
Most other searches all over the web on websites.
Yeah. I mean, Yahoo, Bing, everybody is doing the same, and they all do that with AJAX request. There's no other way to do it, actually. Okay? So you can use AJAX request in reaction to a user input or user keystroke, or you can also do it in reaction to a timer. Like let's say I'm on Gmail. Every minute I want to check if I have a new email and display it if I get a new one. So either it's an event or it's a timer. Okay? Any question on that part? Sorry, I had to rush it out, but it's already 8:30. Any question? Yeah.
Is this push-pull?
AJAX is just pull. It's just give me some information. To do push inside the web architecture, you cannot use AJAX. You need other technologies like WebSockets, for instance, which are way more advanced for tonight. So I will send you on Meetup a link to this deck with resources if you want to go further. This is a great presentation from Douglas Crockford on JavaScript, which goes way into more details. So if you already program in another language, it's a nice resource. This book is really good. JavaScript, the good part. So it's funny because there is like JavaScript, the good part, which is a really small book, and JavaScript, which is a big book. So when you put them next to one each other, you see how much not good parts are in JavaScript. There is Bootstrap. I didn't talk at all about Bootstrap, but if you went to one of Boris's Meetup, he explained what Bootstrap is. And Bootstrap has a JavaScript page on the documentation because some components, like modals, like drop-downs, are animated. Actually, the drop-down, the city drop-down on the Le Wagon website is a Bootstrap drop-down. It's not something we actually coded. If you speak French, we have on-demand video lectures on JavaScript to go further. If you don't, sorry. Yeah, so this summer we'll be running a bootcamp. So you know that it starts on July 11th. It will be 9 or some weeks to actually really know how to program and to build any idea you might have, any prototype you might have, or even land a job in a cool startup. So please join us. And please go watch on this website the last demo day of Le Wagon Amsterdam. So it was the first batch in Amsterdam. They did a great job, great products, so that you can really feel what you can actually achieve even after just 2 months of coding. So please go watch them, and thanks for being here tonight.